Joining me now, New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu. Good to have you with us, Governor.
You bet. Good to see you.
Okay, so let's talk reality here. The latest Monmouth Washington Post poll there in South Carolina among Republican primary voters has President Trump at 58%, Governor Haley at 32%. More recent polling shows an even wider gap. Why is she still in?
Look, because two states, New Hampshire and Iowa, as great as we are as being a filter, don't dictate the Republican nominee for the entire country. You got to let this stuff play out. You got to give folks a choice. And so, again, these early states have always just been kind of filters to try to narrow it down to a one-on-one race. We've gotten that. That's great. Nikki Haley is raising a ton of money. She has resources. She's going to play in all of the Super Tuesday states, and I think she's going to do very well there. I think she's going to do well in her home state of South Carolina. So there's a lot to play here. Remember, Nikki Haley had about 4% of the vote about 6 weeks before New Hampshire, and in that time frame, she wiped out every other candidate and got within about 10 points of them, showing that there's a real alternative here. There's a choice, and this election is not just about the primary. It's about November, right? Nikki trounces Biden in November. With Trump, it's going to be a nail-biter, just like it was in 22 when we lost with his candidates and when we lost in 20. So this is about winning, right? You can't govern if you don't win. You can't pass these policies. She trounces Biden, and the fear is that if Trump is the nominee, ultimately Biden wins and the next president of the United States is actually Kamala Harris. That's a reality of the domino effect that Trump would have in America.
But it seems like an argument that primary voters, at least thus far, are not buying. There is also this issue of all the polling has shown that the governor's unfavorability has ticked up. Her favorability has ticked down the last couple of months. One analyst puts it this way: we see a significant dip in favorability and rise in unfavorability that seems to correspond with her increasing attacks on Trump. This would seem to indicate that in South Carolina, as apparently in the nation as a whole, that the Republican Party is very much Trump's party. Is there room for Nikki Haley in a party that most analysts think now belongs to Donald Trump?
Oh, well, absolutely. So let's look at South Carolina. They traditionally have a very low voter turnout. So a lot of the opportunity that Nikki has is talking to those Republican voters, talking even to some of those independent voters that are more conservative but typically stay on the sidelines and getting them out to vote. So there's a lot of margin for improvement there to get the new voter out. And I think that's where Nikki's team has really been hitting the ground and having some success. The polls don't always show those types of numbers. I mean, the polls right in New Hampshire had Nikki down by 20, the day before the primary, and she, closed it to about 10 points. So you can't just look at the polls. It's really, this is all decided at the voter box. And again, 2-3 states do not dictate the nominee for president for everybody else. To say that, well, we're just going to look at a few 100,000 folks and they're going to tell us who our nominee should be for the entire party, for the entire country. No, that's not the way it should work. You got to take this at least through Super Tuesday and start kind of showing, with Trump's most recent comments overseas on Putin, that is undoubtedly going to hurt him. Those are un-American comments. They really are. The fact that she's raising money and spending money on a campaign, he's spending all of his money right now, at least 50 to 60 million on his legal fees. So where are the resources going to come from? The RNC itself has a record low amount of cash on hand because of his leadership and his type of message. You need everybody to get in here. If you don't get those suburban moms back, you don't get some of those young voters back, you cannot win in November, and that's what this is about.
Let me ask you, though, do you think all of those legal cases are legit, nonpartisan, apolitical cases against him?
No, I don't. But that doesn't matter. He's still going to have to spend $50 to $100 million defending himself. That's kind of the point. That whether it's legitimate or not doesn't matter. He's got this chaos that surrounds him. It absolutely does, and will keep surrounding him if he were to become president, right? So nothing is going to ultimately get done. So whether you buy off on them or not really doesn't matter. The fact is they are his chaos, and he's got to handle it.
Okay, so let me ask you this. New York Times piece said Saturday that all of the punches that Governor Haley is landing on President Trump are actually helping President Biden in the general election, saying, quoting Tyler Jones, a Democratic strategist in South Carolina, said, Ms. Haley has been aiding the Biden campaign by making, quote, the most effective attacks on Donald Trump, but in Republican spaces. So listen, statistically, there's almost zero chance she can pull off the nomination. Why continue to do things that are going to help President Biden in the general?
First is not a zero chance that she's going to win the nomination. That's nonsense in itself. This is a primary. Everything always gets chippy. If you go back to 2016, everyone had their shots at Trump and all that, and it played out. And there's the same context. Well, you can't attack the front runner because the Democrats might use it. This is about getting the nomination at this point, and battling it out and calling the candidates for what they are and letting folks know that when they vote for someone, who are they actually voting for? What are they actually saying? What's the rhetoric there? Where's these policies going to go? That is all absolutely fair game and should be on the table for folks to make their choice. And to say that we're just going to do 2 or 3 states and call it a day, that's crazy. That's a bunch of Trump sycophants just praying that the former president gets a free ride. He hasn't earned a free ride. He doesn't deserve a free ride. The Republican Party deserves options and choices and a next generational leadership that has a lot of those same policy ideas, but actually could not just win in November, but implement those policy ideas, right? Like being fiscally conservative, which Trump wasn't, building the wall, which Trump didn't, putting in the right policies to drain the swamp and get rid of bureaucracy. Trump did none of that, right? So we want a Republican that doesn't just talk the talk, but can deliver those results for America.
Well, Governor, we will see what happens in South Carolina. Thank you for stopping in. Good to see you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.